It was a cold, dark night, and I was settling in for another graveyard shift at the gas station on the outskirts of town. The station was located along an isolated stretch of highway, making it a haven for weary travelers and truckers seeking fuel and a quick bite. As the clock struck midnight, the store was eerily quiet, with only the low hum of refrigerators and the occasional distant rumble of a passing vehicle breaking the silence. I was accustomed to these solitary nights, and my routine was simple: serve the rare customer, tidy up the shelves, and try to stay awake. Around 2 a.m., a faint sound echoed through the store, like the shuffle of feet on pavement. I glanced outside, but the dim glow of the streetlights revealed nothing out of the ordinary. Chalking it up to my imagination playing tricks on me, I returned to my post behind the counter. Minutes turned to hours, and just as the first rays of dawn began to peek through the horizon, a man stumbled into the store. He was disheveled, with wild eyes and clothes that looked torn and stained. I could tell something was wrong with him, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. He approached the counter, and I could see that his hands were covered in dirt and dried blood. Fear gripped me, but I tried to maintain my composure. "Hey there," I managed to say. "Are you all right? Do you need any help?" The man's response sent chills down my spine. He let out a guttural groan, like the sound of an animal in pain, and lunged toward me. Instinctively, I grabbed a nearby mop and swung it at him, forcing him to stumble back. My heart pounded as I reached for the phone to dial the police, but the line was dead. Panic set in as I realized that something was terribly wrong, and I needed to find a way to protect myself and figure out what was happening. As the man, or whatever he had become, staggered towards me, I quickly retreated into the back room of the gas station. My mind raced with confusion and fear, trying to make sense of the situation. I had heard of strange happenings in the world, but zombies? It couldn't be real, right? Peering through the window, I saw more figures appearing in the distance, moving erratically and with an unsettling slowness. They were like a herd, coming toward the gas station with a singular focus. I rummaged through the storage area, searching for something to defend myself with. My hands found an old baseball bat, and I gripped it tightly. If these creatures got in, I had to be ready to fight for my life. Outside, the group of zombies grew larger, drawn to the noise or the smell of the living. I locked all the doors, hoping it would hold them off until help arrived. But help didn't come. The phone lines were still dead, and there was no sign of any police or rescue team. It seemed like the gas station was cut off from the outside world. As the day wore on, the zombies became more numerous. They pounded on the windows and doors, their lifeless eyes fixated on me. I tried to remain hidden and as quiet as possible, but the tension and exhaustion were unbearable. By the time the sun set again, I had been trapped for hours. The store was running low on supplies, and I knew I couldn't stay hidden forever. It was time to face the reality of the situation and figure out how to escape. Through the window, I saw the zombies outside milling about aimlessly. It seemed like they were drawn to the gas station for some reason. Perhaps it was the scent of gasoline or some other attraction. I knew I needed to exploit this to create a diversion and escape. Rummaging through the storage area once more, I found some old fireworks that were left over from a holiday sale. They were meant for display, but now they would serve a different purpose. I gathered the fireworks, positioning them strategically around the gas station, leading a trail towards the pumps. My hope was that I could create a distraction by setting off the fireworks, drawing the zombies away from the store long enough for me to make a run for it. With a racing heart, I lit the fuse and dashed towards the back exit. As the fireworks exploded in a burst of light and sound, the zombies turned their attention to the spectacle. I seized the opportunity and sprinted towards the gas station's garage, where a service vehicle was parked. I fumbled with the keys, finally managing to unlock the vehicle and start the engine. I crashed through the garage door, leaving the zombies behind, at least for the moment. As I drove away from the gas station, I couldn't help but look back at the place I had called my workplace for years. It was now a haunting scene, overrun by the undead. The roads were empty, and the once bustling town now felt desolate and devoid of life. I had no idea where to go or how to find safety in a world that seemed to have descended into chaos overnight. For days, I wandered from town to town, trying to find any signs of life or civilization. But everywhere I went, I encountered more zombies. It was as if the entire world had fallen victim to this horrifying plague. Desperation and loneliness began to take their toll on me. I felt like a solitary survivor in a world that no longer belonged to the living. I would find abandoned shelters to spend the nights, but each new day brought new challenges and dangers. Just when I was on the verge of losing all hope, I stumbled upon a group of survivors in a fortified compound. They had managed to hold off the zombie hordes and establish a small community focused on survival. The leader, a seasoned man named Jack, welcomed me cautiously but with a glimmer of compassion. He explained that they had been preparing for this disaster for years, anticipating a global catastrophe of some sort. With the newfound safety of the compound, I shared my story of the gas station and the night it was invaded by zombies. They believed my account, and Jack confided that they had been monitoring similar incidents in various parts of the country. It was clear that the infection was spreading rapidly. Together, we formulated a plan to try and make a difference in this apocalypse. We knew that we couldn't save the world, but we could fight to keep our small community alive and, if possible, help others along the way. And so, we geared up for a mission to gather supplies and locate survivors. Armed with knowledge of the undead and a determination to survive, we set out to face the horrors that awaited us beyond the compound walls. Our group set out on a convoy of vehicles, braving the unforgiving world outside the compound. Armed with weapons, supplies, and a collective will to survive, we navigated through the desolate towns and cities, all while being wary of the undead lurking around every corner. It didn't take long before we encountered our first real threat. A pack of fast-moving zombies, known as sprinters, ambushed us while we were scavenging for food and fuel. The suddenness of the attack caught us off guard, and we lost 2 members of our group in the ensuing chaos. The reality of the apocalypse hit us hard that day, reminding us that no matter how prepared we thought we were, survival was never guaranteed. Despite our losses, we pressed on, hardened by the experience and even more determined to stay alive. As days turned into weeks, we came across more survivors in need of help. We shared what supplies we could spare, and some decided to join our ranks. Each new addition brought both hope and concern, as we had to be cautious of those who might pose a danger to the safety of the group. One night, while resting in an abandoned building, one of our new recruits, Sarah, revealed something unsettling. She claimed to have insider knowledge about the origin of the outbreak. According to her, it was not a natural virus, but a sinister experiment gone wrong. Sarah worked as a scientist in a clandestine laboratory where they were conducting secret genetic research. The goal was to create super soldiers, but the experiments had horrific consequences. They inadvertently unleashed the virus that caused the undead plague. The revelation left us in shock and disbelief. Sarah's story sounded like something out of a sci-fi horror movie, but given the state of the world, anything was possible. We didn't know whether to trust her or consider her a threat. Jack decided to keep a close eye on her while trying to verify her claims. Sarah led us to the remnants of the research facility where the virus was created. the place was a wasteland of destruction, with twisted metal and scorched earth. As we explored the ruins, we found evidence that supported Sarah's story. But we also discovered something far more terrifying. The virus wasn't contained to the laboratory, it had been released into the nearby water supply, contaminating a vast area. We realized that the apocalypse might have only just begun. During our investigation, we were attacked by a group of heavily mutated zombies. These were different from anything we had encountered before, larger, stronger, and more resilient. They were the results of the early experiments, the super soldiers the lab had hoped to create. We barely escaped with our lives, and it became evident that the facility was not a place we wanted to linger. However, Sarah believed that hidden within the research data were clues to a potential cure. Despite the risks, we decided to attempt a retrieval mission. Returning to the facility under the cover of night, we made our way through the labyrinthine corridors. The undead still lurked within, making every step treacherous. We had to face our fears and confront the monstrosities that were once human. As we delved deeper, we stumbled upon the remains of the lab's personnel. Their fate was a grim reminder of the horrors humans were capable of inflicting on each other in the name of scientific advancement. Finally, we reached the heart of the facility, the data archives. Sarah meticulously searched for information on a potential cure, while the rest of us kept watch, ready to defend against any unexpected attacks. After what felt like an eternity, Sarah discovered a potential breakthrough. There was a test subject who had shown signs of resistance to the virus, and the researchers believed it could be the key to creating a cure. The subject's location was logged in the data, and we decided to track them down. The trail led us to a remote underground bunker where the surviving subject was supposedly held. It was a long and treacherous journey, but we couldn't afford to give up. The fate of humanity rested on finding a cure for the zombie plague. When we arrived at the bunker, we were met with an unexpected surprise. The subject was not what we had expected. It was a young girl, seemingly unharmed by the virus. Her name was Emily. Emily's presence brought hope to our group. If she truly held the key to a cure, we had to protect her at all costs. But she was scared and mistrustful, having survived alone in the bunker for months. Sarah, however, knew the importance of convincing Emily to join our cause. She shared her own past, revealing the guilt she felt for her role in creating the virus. It was a vulnerable moment, and surprisingly, Emily began to open up to us. In the days that followed, we formed a bond with Emily, learning more about the experiments conducted on her and her family. The guilt of her past drove Sarah to make amends, and she vowed to do everything in her power to find a cure. But the world outside the bunker was no longer safe. The mutated zombies from the research facility were tracking us, and their numbers were growing. We had to face them, and the potential cure became a beacon of hope in the face of an impending storm. With Emily in our care, we faced the difficult decision of where to take her. Returning to the compound was risky, as it might lead the mutated zombies straight to our doorstep. Instead, we opted for a more secluded location, a hidden cabin deep in the wilderness. The journey was perilous, with the undead and other survivors posing constant threats. Along the way, we encountered a group of survivors who seemed friendly at first. They claimed to be seeking a safe haven, just like us. Jack was cautious, but he believed in the strength of numbers and decided to form an alliance with the group. However, I had a bad feeling about them. Something about their leader, a man named Randall, seemed off. There was a coldness in his eyes that sent shivers down my spine. Our groups traveled together for a few days, sharing resources and knowledge. But it didn't take long for my suspicions to be confirmed. One night, While most of us were sleeping, I overheard Randall discussing a plan to take over our supplies and territory. It seemed our alliance was nothing more than a ruse. I alerted Jack and Sarah, and together, we confronted Randall's group. The tension was palpable, and for a moment, it seemed like a violent confrontation was inevitable. But as the hours passed, we managed to negotiate a tense truce, agreeing to part ways without bloodshed. With Emily still in our care, we continued on our path to the hidden cabin, now more vigilant than ever, knowing that betrayal lurked around every corner. As we settled into the secluded cabin, Sarah took the lead in studying the data recovered from the research facility. There were tantalizing hints of a potential cure hidden within the experiment's logs. Emily, who had grown fond of Sarah, offered to participate in the research. She understood the importance of her unique condition and wanted to help find a cure to save others from suffering. Days turned into weeks as Sarah meticulously analyzed the data and experimented with various combinations of compounds. But time was not on our side. The mutated zombies, now led by the ruthless Randall and his group, were closing in on our location. The attacks became more frequent and intense. It was clear that we couldn't stay hidden for much longer. Emily's life was in constant danger, and the pressure to find a cure weighed heavily on all of us. Then, one fateful night, a breakthrough occurred. Sarah stumbled upon a formula that showed promise in halting the progression of the virus. It was not a full cure, but it offered a glimmer of hope, a way to suppress the symptoms and potentially reverse the mutation. With a limited supply of the experimental formula, we faced a heart-wrenching decision. We had to choose who among us would receive the treatment. Emily, as the subject with the most potential, was the first to try the cure. The effects were gradual but encouraging. Emily's symptoms began to subside, and her strength returned. It was a small victory, but we needed to refine the formula and find a way to produce it on a larger scale. As we worked tirelessly on the research, the attacks from Randall's group intensified. They were relentless, determined to seize Emily and the potential cure for their own gain. It became evident that we couldn't hide in the cabin any longer. The time had come to confront Randall's group and put an end to their threat once and for all. It was a battle for survival, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The final stand was brutal and unforgiving. The cabin became a battleground, and every moment felt like it could be our last. Lives were lost on both sides, and the scent of death hung heavily in the air. In the midst of the chaos, we managed to capture Randall alive. Sarah, driven by her guilt, insisted on questioning him, hoping to gain more insight into the origins of the virus and find answers that might lead to a complete cure. Randall revealed a dark truth about the virus: it wasn't an accident. It was a weapon, deliberately released by a shadowy organization seeking to reshape the world. Their ultimate goal was to create an army of undead soldiers to bring about chaos and destruction. As Sarah confronted Randall, a fierce debate erupted among our group about what to do with him. Some wanted to execute him immediately for his crimes, while others believed he should face justice through legal means. But before we could reach a decision, the choice was taken out of our hands. A rogue member of Randall's group, driven by vengeance for the loss of his comrades, shot and killed Randall, leaving us all in shock and disbelief. In the aftermath of the battle, we buried our fallen comrades and began to rebuild. Emily's strength was returning, and her unique condition offered new hope for humanity. With Sarah's research and Emily's resilience, we had a chance to combat the virus and turn the tide of the apocalypse. As our group prepared to continue the fight against the undead, we made a vow to honor the memories of those we lost and to never let the darkness of this new world consume us. With the cure in our hands, we knew that the struggle was far from over, but we were ready to face whatever the future held.